Releasing anger. Yes, I'm going to talk about anger. Releasing anger with the full moon. Last week on Facebook, I noticed several people mentioning that they felt very angry. And it was interesting to me that people were actually being brave enough and bold enough to share their emotional state on Facebook. And I give those people props. It's actually no one I knew. It just happened to be in my feed, which then gave me the idea to share this personal story about releasing anger back in October 2021 and never having it come back. And I really have full intention that my story share today helps you if you are in a similar predicament, being very angry for something. Or maybe you know someone and you can share this video or share the context of the story and can help them too, because it's a very powerful story and it really made a huge difference in my life, my husband's life, and where we live now. It's pretty fascinating, actually. And I alluded to sharing this story in this week's The Success Codes podcast as I was talking about human design and one of the human design types called the manifester. And manifestor type has nothing to do with manifesting. It's really just that you're an idea generator. But one of the aspects of human design is you have non-self themes, and the non-self theme of the manifesting type is anger. So that's how it came up in my podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about human design or having a one-on-one personal reading, please just reach out to me. So anyhow, so the story I want to share is about Ryan and I's living situation where we lived in a really, really big duplex for 9.5 years down here in the Florida Keys in Tavernier. And when we first moved into this duplex after living in the Keys for about 2.5 years, I believe, we lived in a condo building on the water. We ended up moving to a working street, I would call it, where there wasn't any tourists. So we didn't have to deal with like tourists and weekenders, and all that gets very annoying when you live in a tourist place. And so we lived in this really big duplex. And we were very, very grateful for the space. And I always would joke with people that we actually had 3 big white deep freezers in our living room. And it was quite a unique setup in terms of the fact it was so big, but we had fishing stuff everywhere. So we really didn't have like a normal like living space like we have now. And we didn't have like a nice outside area to sit, like a screened in porch. So I had been wanting and desiring all these things, like a place for where my husband's fishing stuff could go that wouldn't be in our living room, and a place where we could sit outside, a nice screened in lanai or porch, and have our coffee in the morning. There were various aspects that we loved, but there were some other aspects that were horrible. The street itself wasn't managed by the county, which means it was extremely dirty and had potholes everywhere. There was trash, and some of our very kind neighbors always tried to keep it clean and fill in the potholes, but it's just not the same as when your city takes care of a street. We also had a forest across the street, which at first is really cool that there's no neighbors across the street. But what ended up happening was, because we were in and out all day, and we lived on, like, it was just a 1-story duplex, we ended up getting palmetto bugs, which in other words is cockroaches, in our house, like at least 2 a day. I would wake up in the morning and there was always like at least 2 to 3 palmetto bugs that I would have to like track down and kill, which I was very good at that actually. But it was just annoying. Like all these things were just annoying. And at the time we had 3 little Shih Tzus and no fenced in yard, so we always have to walk them. And they were always dirty, like always full of burrs, and just so dirty. My feet were dirty. Everything was dirty. Like our stuff was dirty. Everything was dirty because of this forest across the street and the street not being clean. So whatever happened over time was I got very, very angry at the world, at the universe, for not having us move along faster in what I was manifesting in terms of a nicer house on a nicer street, and all the things that I had like put in my vision about what I wanted as a place for us to live. So I ended up getting angry and angrier and angrier, and I'd walk the dogs and I'd be so angry. And sometimes I'd be so angry, I'd be like on the verge of tears and just like hating the world and hating the universe. And this was just in October 2021, so not even that long ago. And all of a sudden, one day after this had been going on for months and months and months, and all these other horrible things were like compiling in our lives. My husband had hurt himself. We had all these issues with our boat. I had burned the boats on my sales business. And so I was like full on into being a coach and a writer, and nothing was happening fast enough. So in October of 2021, self-led, on a walk with my 3 little dogs, all of a sudden this voice, this click, just this whole click, this whole knowing came to me and was like, you are not doing yourself any favors by being angry. You're actually making your life worse. And it just stopped me. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Being angry doesn't help anyone's situation. It didn't help me. It didn't help my husband, my poor little dogs. It didn't help anything. It didn't make anything move faster. It actually made everything slower. It created so much resistance in our lives that it was just paralyzing us. And so literally that snap in my brain, in my whole knowing, changed the trajectory of everything. I all of a sudden just felt better. I was like, I just gotta stop being angry. I just gotta live in the present, right? Sound like a Facebook meme. I live in the present and just be grateful for where we live and what we have, and know it's not forever. Luckily, we're just renters, like we can move. We just need like it all to come together in the time that it's supposed to come together. So I released the anger then, and then a few months later, my husband and I both released where we lived. Like we're both like, we have no attachments to this house. Whatever happens, happens. Everything will work out perfectly. We know it, we believe it, we trust it. And you have to really feel that in your body, like in your cells, like to a cellular level. Whereas if you were to go backwards, like you would actually feel like this energy be like, no, you're only here, you're here, you're here. So that's like the whole difference in like everything. And then sure as shit, in November of just this past year, 2022, so just a little over a year from when I released my anger, we ended up having to move. We were forced to move, which was fine. And the house that we ended up finding to live in had the screened-in porch for my husband and I to sit on and have coffee, and has a whole other space for my husband's fishing things. So we don't have 3 freezers in our living room anymore. We have some fishing poles, but we no longer have 3 freezers in our living room, and we have more space. We have more light. I can have clients here. I can just work more comfortably, more easily. We're both more at peace. We're not trying to like leave all the time or not even come home. Like we're just more peaceful and happier here. So the trajectory of how this happened, let's say from October of 2021 to November, and then we moved in December of 2022 was a little over a year. So that's the thing you have to really remember too with like releasing things, is then you're giving it up to the universe for the timing to come into play. So you have to do it first, and then you have to hold steady on that energy. You can't like flip-flop back and forth. You have to hold steady on that energy and wait for the timing to happen, because everything happens in divine timing. You're co-creating with the universe. So all this like taking action and hustle hard and all the things, I do that too. I work a lot, like I'm not gonna lie, but I also have a really great balance with understanding. I don't always get it perfect at all, but I understand so I can control my thoughts and realize where I'm pushing too hard and I need to release. And then I make that conscious decision to release a little bit. So anyhow, so I hope this helps someone out there. Again, please share. Stay tuned for this week's The Success Code podcast. I'm going to dive into what I posted about yesterday on LinkedIn about kissing many frogs before I find my prince.